Welcome back to CANCERBUZZ live coverage from the ACCC 41st National Oncology Conference. I'm your host, Summer Johnson. All this week, we're on this channel bringing you conversations with keynote speakers and experts in oncology care. Right now, we're here with Mr. Terry Keyes from the University of Kentucky Markey Cancer Center. Terry, thanks for joining CANCERBUZZ.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Your session is called Empowering Partnerships, Enhancing Cancer Research Through Patient Advocacy. Let's talk about what that means.
Well, this particular talk is going to be about how you can lay the foundation to actually springboard your organization to kind of the next level. And we're doing that by having the patient voice in the room with our clinicians and with our researchers, so that we're going to hear what they would like to have out of the treatment regimens, the processes that we're actually doing that we think that they want to help them with their disease state. And in this particular case, we're talking about if you don't lay the foundation correctly, we're going to talk about nuts and bolts kinds of things. If you don't lay that foundation correctly so that you can establish this room full of trust, then you're not going to get open and honest responses. And if you don't have open and honest responses, then you're not going to go anywhere with it. So the goal at Markey Cancer Center is how can we do a better job of taking care of the whole of the patient. So you can go anywhere in the United States and the world to very fine cancer centers, and you'll be able to find treatment regimens that will take care of, let's say, breast cancer or something. Great. We have more people than in our lifetimes living with cancer these days. But what we're looking at is what can we do to help that person live the best possible life after they finish that treatment regimen? And that means that they have feeling in their fingers and they don't have neuropathy in their feet, so they can be that marathon runner, or they can do these crafts that mean so much to them. And that, I think, is kind of the next frontier of how do you take care of the whole of the person and not just be satisfied. Well, they should be grateful because we cured their cancer.
Your program launched in 2022. What's surprised you over the last 2 years?
I think it's how open and humbled the researchers are by people who will be open and honest with them. Because let's face it, most of our researchers these days are not what I call touching patients. They're looking through microscopes, looking at the petri dishes, they're looking at animal studies, they're looking at graphs, bars, blots, all those types of things. And there's no human element to that as far as what happens once it leaves their labs, or in some cases in their clinical research, what actually happens to the patients. And so I just had one of my researchers the other day talk in front of a large audience of people. She was so humbled that people would take the time to basically tell her how she could do a better job of taking care of them in such an open and honest and caring way. And so that's the thing that surprised them, along with how that interaction actually gives them ideas for new avenues of research in the area that they've been doing for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So it's like, well, I never thought of it that way. Well, of course not, because you don't have that lived experience. So this lived experience, coming back and telling people who aren't in that experience how it's affecting their daily lives, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that has a huge impact for the people who are actually coming up with these treatment regimens and doing these social sciences to try to figure out how we can do a better job.
What do you hope that attendees take away from your session?
Well, I hope that they can understand that if they make the commitment to it and they set the foundations out correctly, that they will have something that will springboard their organizations, their clinics, their hospitals, wherever it is that they're working, that they will be able to springboard into another level of commitment to taking care of people. And that might sound odd when you're talking about people who want to take care of people, but sometimes it's not so obvious about how that can be done. And it's really just listening to people's needs and then responding to it. And so I'm hoping that when we get finished with it, they go, okay, it is possible. I can see how the successes that they've had at the Markey Cancer Center can translate to what we do and maybe expand it on out from there. And so we'll see what happens.
Finally, you have an interesting story we were speaking about before this interview about how this patient advocacy program came to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, 2 months after I started in my job, 15 years ago, my boss came to me and said, we have this focus group coming together, and we're going to have a meeting about it, and I'd like for you to attend it. So I'm going to make a very long story short. It was a big ruse. They didn't have anybody to do this facilitation of this meeting, and so they had this meeting, and I said, look, if you need somebody to facilitate it, I'll facilitate it. But I won't do it unless I can meet with the executive director every month to talk about what I've discovered, because otherwise we're just wasting our time and maybe having a good meal on the side. And it will fail. And if it fails, I fail, and I don't really like that. So 15 years ago, the career that I have now started as a volunteer position at the Markey Cancer Center. It wasn't in my job description. I wasn't paid for it. There was no overtime with it. And I became an accidental advocate. That's the way I like to put it. And it's been the most consequential work that I have done in a very long career.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Terry. We hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you. I'm sure that I'm going to.
This series doesn't end here. We're in Minneapolis through the end of the week, bringing you the voices and the buzz from ACCC's 41st National Oncology Conference. Hit the follow button so you know when our next episode is live. Until then, this is Summer Johnson.
This show is a resource of the Association of Cancer Care Centers.